Hey, what's up to everybody out there? Welcome to another edition of the Roundtable Talk. I am your host, C Money, and in today's episode, we're giving you a South Florida update. Lord Jesus, I didn't want to do another one of these episodes. And when I mean by South Florida update, over the past year and couple of months, there have been a lot of closures and a lot of changes in the South Florida area, and it has been really having the local community uproar. If you're from South Florida, this is for you. If you're not from South Florida, you can still comment about the areas that you live in that has changed, and the areas that you live in that something that was there that used to be there, maybe something from your childhood life, or maybe something that you adored much is no longer there. You can comment and weigh in on it. There has been like several places. One of the places I just recently, if you've seen a video within the last week or two, I did a video of a park called Jose Milton Park, which is Albert Pollo Green Pilot Palat Green Space, which is in the northeast section of Miami. We did a video there where they were showcasing the M that was shaped out of domino pieces, and we did a video there in that area. And this was the day after. Go back and look at the day that I did it. And then the next day, because in the area there is a restaurant that's been there for over 55 years. It is a chained restaurant, and I love it. It was Denny's. It's right there. If you when I started the video, remember I did the video. I started it off of Biscayne and 38th Street, which is where that old police museum is. And I showed you the car that sits on the side of the that's on the side of the building, and it used to be a police museum. If you go about about 2 blocks down, which is Biscayne and 36th Street, on the corner sits a Denny's restaurant. And the Denny's restaurant, I actually passed there on my way to do the video for the park, and the Denny's restaurant sit there. The next day, after I did the recording, there was actually a social media post that they have closed that Denny's, and it's been there for over 55 years, and they're making way for a multi-use high-rise condominium. And I was like, are you serious? And that is actually the Denny's. That Denny's actually served the downtown, Overtown, Edgewater, Liberty City, and Little Haiti areas, because that was the only Denny's in the area. The other Denny's is near the airport, and that's why I actually get my breakfast from. Every now and then on Saturdays I order breakfast to be delivered, and I get it actually from that Denny's. Now I will probably have to get my Denny's delivered from the airport. I did go to Denny's with one of my friends recently, but the other day, but we ended up going to one in Miami Gardens, and we did a pickup. But I actually, was like, are you serious? And I didn't know that it was there for over 55 years. I knew they was there a while. I've actually dined in that restaurant. I've actually sat down in the restaurant, and I've ate in that restaurant before. I've gotten my food delivered from that restaurant several times. Like I said, it was the only restaurant in the area because it serves the downtown, Overtown, Liberty City, Little Haiti, Edgewater, and the northeast section of Miami, because there wasn't no other Denny's around. So now they're closed, and I'm like, oh my God, what is going on with the community? And that was actually the day after I did the video about the hotspots in South Florida, when I did the Jose Milton Park. The day after, I saw on social media that they was closing its doors for good, and they say the customers, and nobody didn't know until the customers came to the restaurant and saw a sign on the door. They didn't publicly tell people. It didn't even on the news. They didn't even show it on the news saying the iconic restaurant is closing its door for, because there was a gas station that sat across the street from there, and they have closed that gas station that sat across the street. I think it was if I'm not mistaken, it might have been a Shell gas station, and it was literally right across the street from the Denny's, and they was doing construction over there, so the gas station was already torn down. Now the Denny's has been closed because they're doing a mixed multi-use. They say it's apartments, but then there's another comment that said it's a multi-use apartment building where they probably gonna have local like businesses on the bottom, and then the apartments at the top. And I'm like, are you serious? This is crazy. Another location, this is in the Broward area, already closed its doors, but I know for a lot of you, you probably, if you're from Broward, you probably done saw this already. It is a another place, and I've been there too, and it is a hot spot in South Florida. I never did a video of this place, but oh my God, if I could have, I would have. Spares Bowling Alley. If you've ever been to Broward, it's right off of it sits on University Drive, not too far from Davie Boulevard and things like that. It is in Davie, and it was Spares Bowling Alley. They recently closed their doors. I believe the end of February, if I'm not mistaken, they closed their doors, and it is set to be warehouses. And I'm like, oh my God. And I'm sitting up here going crazy because I'm like, y'all literally see that they're taking away the essence of South Florida. And it's not just South Florida, it's all over the country. You know, where a lot of these buildings are being torn down. Remember I did several videos. I did a video of down south when I did a video of Sunset Place where they're supposed to close Sunset Place, and then I did a video of a Winn-Dixie that's been the staple of South Miami for years, and they tore it down to build a mixed use development. And then I did a video highlighting the Festival Flea Market Mall, which was in, I believe, Pompano Beach, and they actually closed that, and it's supposed to become a warehouse. I was supposed to do an update video, but I didn't. Like I said, they're doing a lot of staples and thing, and yeah, yesterday was the last day of the Dade County Youth Fair, and I didn't go this year because one of the reasons why I didn't go because I actually got to saw the rides that they had for the youth fair online because the company I follow the company that does the they kind of youth fair rides, and I was looking at the rides and I say it's not something I'm appealing to because you remember back then the day kind of youth fair was an experience. A lot of these places was an experience. Now you come to these places, you know, you're like and I went last year, and I don't know if I told y'all this story. I went last year, and last year I only got to roll 2 rides, and I had an unlimited pass, and there was a reason why. And I think I told y'all this, and I've told this story. To get in, because remember, I buy any place I go to. I normally buy my tickets online, so it'd be much faster instead of waiting in a long line. But even last year when I went, like I told y'all that the line, because before you was able to buy your ticket and then you go through security checkpoint after you buy your ticket. Meaning they have the little security there, and they have the, machines. Well, no, they don't have the machines. They have the I can't think of it right now. But you go to the security checkpoint and metal detectors. That's what I was thinking of. Oh my God, and they had the metal detectors there. You pay your ticket, you went through the metal detectors, and then you went to give the people your ticket, or you showed them your online purchase. Last year they had it where the security checkpoint was on the outside before you buy your ticket, and the line was like 30 minutes long. And I ended up going with a few coworkers of mine, and I was waiting on them to come so we can get inside the security checkpoint. And then I seen somebody I knew that was in a wheelchair bound, and they got like priority access. So I said, no, I'm gonna go hang with them, and I'm gonna go inside with them. And I was like, yeah, this long line. And then they don't offer you online express. They don't offer you to buy express passes online, which is first priority to the rides. And when I got in, I wanted to go buy an express pass, and the lady was like, oh, we only had like a certain amount we give out a day, and we're all allowed. And I was like, oh. And then that's one of the reasons why I didn't want to go this year. And I'm like, the fair is not what it used to be, and things like that. And there's been rumors about they're supposed to move the fair because FIU bought the location of the thing, and they're supposed to be moving. I don't know when, if that's gonna ever happen or not. But and I look at these things, I say they're taking the essence of South Florida away, because things we used to have back then and we used to do, there is too much going on. Like, you just closed Denny's, which was a staple for everybody in the community. Now, when you order for delivery, you have to go to a Denny's that Denny's was probably no more than 3 miles away from my house at the most. And now you're going to probably have to find a Denny's that's 5 or 6 miles away from my house, because now you got to find a Denny's that's further away from there. And then not only that, and then with Spares, the bowling alley. Now people have to go to another bowling alley, because that was for the Davie, the West Hollywood, and North Pembroke Pines area. There was for the staple for the people in the community. Now you got to go further away. And you're not closing them to build something better and entertaining. You're closing these places to build warehouses and apartment buildings. And I'm like, dude, why? Because honestly, we don't need another warehouse. What are we going to do with another warehouse? Amazon is taking over everything. There is talks about Amazon supposed to bought the swap shop. That the swap shop's supposed to be closing, and Amazon, there was rumors that Amazon was supposed to buy it out. That's the reason why Uncle Bernie's amusement park went away. That's the reason why they closed down the drive-through theater, the last remaining drive-through theater in South Florida, and that's the reason why they did away with the arcade and a lot of stuff out there. Because I'm like, oh my God, you're supposed to turn this into a Amazon warehouse. And I believe that's probably what's the same reason with Festival Feed Market. They say they turned it into warehouses. I wouldn't believe if it's an Amazon warehouse. And I'm sitting up here like, why y'all just can't find empty lots to put warehouses? Why you want to take away the essence of our childhoods and the places we've been going to, the places we take our kids, it's places that our parents used to take us as kids, to where now you can take your own kids, and then in the future your kids can take their kids. Remember when I did an episode back and where they closed the Dania Beach Boomers, and they ended up putting a shopping center. You could have put another family fun center there. No, but you put a bowling alley. Yes, a bowling alley is fine, but what about, go-karts and, amusement rides and stuff like that? You should bring something to the community. Like South Florida is not where it's at anymore as far as family fun. When you think of Florida and family fun, you think of Orlando, Busch Gardens, Tampa Bay, and all of this stuff. You don't think, oh yeah, let's go to Miami and ride some rides in Miami. Well, you're going to ride the rides in Miami. The only thing you got in Miami that's a ride is the big Ferris wheel called the Skyview Miami. That's at Bayfront Park. There isn't no rides in Miami where the kids, you want to go to the beach one day, and then the next day you want to go get on some amusement rides. You used to be where you can go to Fort Lauderdale Beach one day and hang out on the beach, and the next day you can go to the swap shop and go riding at Uncle Bernie's amusement park and have some fun. Now you can't even do that no more because you done took away the essence of South Florida. And if you're in a city, regardless if you're from Miami or South Florida, and you see something that they're taking away that is precious to us, comment at the bottom of this page. But if you're from another city and you know that they have taken your childhood, whether it's amusement park, because I see a lot of Six Flags are closing, and a lot of these fun centers, they're closing. Because I see a lot on social media, and I follow a lot of these places on social media. And even if I don't follow these places, I see little stories and stuff like that about a lot of these fun centers, a lot of these places that are being closed down to build what? You're building high-rise and condominiums and things like that. You're closing a Denny's to build a high-rise condominium apartment complex for what? So you can jack up the prices and charge people $3,000 a month to move in, to live in there. It's already ridiculous to live in South Florida with the cost of living going up. Now you want to make it even worse by closing the places that we go and eat and love and survive. We can't even sit down in a Pizza Hut no more because everything is now takeout, and the Pizza Hut are not standalone restaurants no more. Now Pizza Huts are in shopping centers, not too far from where I stayed. They just built the Domino's in an old, it's not old, it was a shoe company called Simon Sportswear, and they're a local, not a local, they're a local like sportswear stores, something similar to like Foot Locker, but they're like a local chain of sportswear stores, and they closed it down to build the Domino's. I mean, I'm not mad, but I'm like, and I was looking, I was saying to myself right before I did this video, because I saw one of the flyers that they had sent us through mail, and I was like, is it a sit down Domino's? Because remember now, back in the day, back in the day, pizza restaurants used to be standalone restaurants where they had their own building. You can go in like Pizza Hut. You can go in and sit down in Pizza Hut, order your pizza. They had the little Pizza Hut lights that was so cool. Then they had the little arcade Pac-Man, where you used to go play the little Pac-Man game and stuff like that. Remember I told you there's one in Orlando that's like that. I don't know if there's any Pizza Huts here in the South Florida area that's like that, but there's one in Orlando that's like that, and it's not too far. It's right across the street from Star Island Resort, and I went there recently a couple of years. A couple of years ago, and it's still a pizza where you can go in there and eat. But I went and got my food, and I took it back to my room, and I'm like, oh my god, now the Pizza Hut you see now, they're next to a Dollar Tree, or they're next to a grocery store. They're in a shopping center where all you have is two chairs to sit down at to wait on your food. Either you ordering to pick up, or you went in there and ordered, and then you waiting on your food. They ain't got no tables with chairs where you can sit down and eat and stuff like that. No, it's all now. It's just eat. It's just take out and delivery. That's it. And I'm like, what are y'all doing to our lives? I know now it's not common, because I'm one of them. It's not common to go and sit down in a restaurant. Normally I get my food and I get it to go, And most of the time I be getting my food and I'm like, I'm gonna eat it when I get home. And it's like the majority of the times when I eat in, it's either three reasons why I'm eating in. Number one, I'm with my mother or a family member, and we're actually going into the restaurant to sit down and eat versus taking it home. Number two, I'm hanging out with some friends or coworkers or whatever, and we decide to want to go hang out at a restaurant and we sit down and eat. Yeah, like that. Or number three, I'm doing a food review like I normally do, and it's a restaurant where I don't want to take my food home and stuff like that, or if I'm far away from home and I want to just sit there and eat, I take my food to, and eat it in there, But at the same time, I look at it as if it is something else. Remember, I did an episode a while back near the airport where they took a Burger King that me and my girl had went to, that the last time I went to it, I had an issue with the workers there, and they took a Miami Subs, which was about a block away from the Burger King, and they closed them down. And I was like, you're taking away a lot of this stuff out of South Florida to make what? What are you doing with these businesses? What are you doing? And the Burger King, I told you, I don't know if I ever told you, was a Bojangles, and it was the last remaining Bojangles here in South Florida. Now, if you want to go to Bojangles, you got to go in the northern end of Florida, or if you go in the blood, because I know there's a Bojangles in Sanford, because me and my friends, when I did visit Orlando a few years back, we ended up going to the Bojangles in Sanford because we stayed at Star Island, and it was a 40-minute drive from Star Island to Sanford to get, from Kissimmee to Sanford to go to Bojangles and stuff like that, because, Bojangles is one of the, you want Bojangles, you don't got Bojangles in South Florida. And then a friend of mine who used to live in South Florida, lives in Jacksonville now, they say they're closing all the Bojangles, and most of the Bojangles is like at rest stops, them truck stops and stuff like that. And I was like, yeah, they getting rid of a lot of stuff here in Florida. Like, we can't even, and then you do, and then it's not like you building something that's in replace, like you closing Denny's, but you're not building another Denny's in the area to where you're replacing that Denny's to make a Denny's or something, and it's like, what? And it's a lot of things that I look at and I say, it's sad to say that, they don't listen to the communities. They don't listen to the people in these communities. A lot of people that was weighing in on that Denny's, and I said it too. I said I've eaten in that Denny's, and I say that is the Denny's that I get my breakfast from, because it's the only Denny's that serve the area I live in. It serves the Liberty City, Overtown, downtown. It probably serves the Brickell, because I don't say Brickell's in that area. I say the closest other Denny's is out there by the airport, because I believe there's two near the airport. There's one literally across the street from the airport, which is not down the street from where the Burger King that we did a video about, and then there's one further down in the Doral area, if I'm not mistaken. But I was like, that's where probably everybody gonna have to start getting their food from. It's probably gonna be a little bit higher on delivery fees because of the area. And I'm like, y'all are making it more impossible for people. It was one thing that I want to big up on thing. The Pizza Hut now delivers in Liberty City, and I was so happy about that. And I think Pizza Hut started doing it, but the only thing about Pizza Hut is they're using third parties. Because like I said, Little Caesars, they use third party delivery drivers, which is DoorDash, to do their deliveries. They don't have their own drivers. Pizza Hut used to had their own drivers. I don't know if they still have drivers, but they have their own drivers. And when I knew people that stayed in the city, when you try to deliver pizza, they'll tell you you can't deliver in the area. And then they used to have it in Overtown, where they used to say, "Oh, you can't." They don't deliver to Overtown after 6 o'clock. And I was like, "Oh, you can't. Pizza Hut don't deliver to Liberty City." And now they uses third party, which is DoorDash, either DoorDash or Uber Eats, one of them. And now they deliver to certain areas. I'm saying that's a good thing now, because now you're expanding your delivery service, but at the same time you're closing a lot of these places to where now how can we get it? Because when me and my friend, I told you the other day, me and my friend went to a Denny's, but we did an online order to pick up, and I was getting one of my favorite dishes, which is the country fried steak breakfast, and and online they didn't have it for that restaurant, that location. I was like, is it that they don't sell it no more, or is it that this location don't sell it? And on my recent orders, they had it under my recent orders, and I was going to reorder it, but the reordering, they was going to do the Denny's that I was telling you that just closed, and they was like, oh, this location doesn't do online ordering. I'm like, I don't want to do the online ordering for this location. I just want the same meal, but I wanted to come from this location that I'm going to, not from the other location. And I'm like, yeah, I just want to reorder the same meal. And the man was telling me at the restaurant, he was like, we was out of country fried steak. And I'm like, even if you're out of country fried steak, how is it not on your menu? You should be able to have on the menu where this location doesn't have it. If you want it, you have to choose another location. So I mean, a lot of these things, it's like now these days, it's harder for us to actually go anywhere and have fun or do anything, because you're closing everything. You closed Spares Bowling Alley. I went there. It's been a while since I've been there, because I don't go to bowling alleys as much in Broward. But at the same time, the communities over there, everybody was devastated when that went down, and they said they was building warehouses. And I'm like, what? You're building warehouses over a place that was making money and people was going to and enjoying, just like, and I didn't do a video of this, but I've seen a video online. Like, there was a bowling alley in the Miami Gardens area called Cloverleaf Bowling Lanes, and I've been there several times, and I used to love going there as a kid and as a young adult and everything. And it closed down. The building still stands, but it is, one half of the building is a church and the other half is a medical building. And I was like, yeah, you still got the building. And I wonder how it looks on the inside, because I've never been on the inside. I'm quite sure there's somebody that probably goes to that church that have said, I used to bowl in this church. Right here, this lane right here. I used to go hang over here with my friends, and I used to drink beer over here. And now it's a church, and I can't drink beer in the church. And if these walls could talk, people probably was having sex in the bowling alley. You know how things and stuff like that. And I'm not saying they do, but you know how things, people was, making out in the bowling alley. Now it's a church and things. And I'm like, you know what? This is what is going down. A lot of these places, and then here in South Florida, it's not many places that people can go and hang out at. Remember, like I say, the malls used to be the center of hangout spots for the young kids back in the 80s and the 90s and the early 2000s. Kids used to go out of school and they used to go hang out at the mall, go hang out at the food court, at their little favorite burger restaurant, get a burger and a milkshake, and be hanging out with their friend. You can't even do that now, because you go to the food courts in the malls now, they don't look like anything we used to do in the 80s and 90s. Used to have the little burger joint. So now you got sushi restaurants, Pad Tan, whatever, Thaya, whatever, teriyaki restaurant, all these high-end restaurants. Go to Aventure Mall. Aventure Mall food court don't look like the food court it used to be. They call it food hall. They don't even call it the food court. They call it the food hall. And I'm like, back in the day when I used to go to Aventure Mall, they used to have a Taco Viva. They had this little Italian restaurant where I used to go get my lasagna at. They used to have, a burger restaurant. I forgot the name of the burger ones. They used to have a lot of stuff. Now they got a Chipotle. They got, all these high-end restaurants, little kiosks that sell $10 cupcakes and all. And I'm like, where is the childhood memories? I know things doesn't last long, but come on, dude. They got a Dadeland Mall. I did a video of Dadeland Mall. Not only do they got a food court, they got a food pavilion where they got high end restaurants. Well, if you don't want to pay the $5 for food, you go to the high end restaurant. And I'm like, this is not what our childhood was. Like the same places we used to hang out at as kids, now done grown up to be where it ain't what it used to be no more. And it's sad. And let me know what y'all think about this, because I think I did a video about this before, but I just want to give y'all an update on South Florida. They closed the Denny's, they closed the Spares. A lot of these places are getting closed to be, built into high rises and warehouses. And, we as a community, we try to come together as a community to try to save these places in some stinks, but sometimes it ain't enough to save, and we try to do what we can, because I tell people, support these businesses, support these shopping centers, support these family fun centers, support these bowling alleys, support these places so they don't close down to where we get warehouses and stuff that we can't even enjoy our own neighborhoods. Like, I've always seen people that say, and I say this a lot, let's save these businesses so people don't have to go outside of businesses. There isn't an arcade or a family fun center in Liberty City. There isn't an arcade or a family fun center in Opelika or Hialeah and places like that. Back then Hialeah used to have this place called Action Town, and it was a nice place. I went with my family. They had one location off of Red Road, and then they moved their location over not too far from down the street from the mall. And when they moved their location, it went down here, and then they ended up closing it. And I was like, oh my god! And it's a lot of places, just like Game Time at Sunset Place. It used to be called GameWorks, and it was one of the premier spots. I used to have my birthday parties there and things like that. As when I was younger, and then just like Sawgrass Mills Mall, they used to have a Wanna-Do City there, where people still to this day people talk about Wanna-Do City. And when they talk about the Spares Bowling Alley, a lot of things, because I had comment on it, and a lot of people was telling me a lot of things that they closed down. Remember the Kabooms they used to have, and the Wanna-Do City, and the Barbie's Dream House that they used to have at Sawgrass Mills, and the Dania Beach Boomers, and the Six Flags Park and things like that. And I'm like, you know what? Y'all bringing back all of this stuff that we had as children, and we can't even relive them. I want to be able to say, oh, let me go to this place that I used to go to as a child, and go play some arcade games. We can't even do that no more. I can't say, let me go ride the go-karts at Boomers and Dania Beach. I can't even do that no more. I got to travel all the way to Boca Raton for Boomers, and it ain't even the same go-kart system, because remember, the one in Boomers at Dania Beach was a 15-minute go-kart ride. You was riding on that kart for, you was in the go-kart, because that was a huge go-kart land. If you know about Dania Beach Boomers, because that go-kart was a 10-minute. You know how the regular go-karts, you go around in about 2 minutes and you're done, and they let you go around about 3-4 times. When you went in the Dania Beach Boomers go-kart, you only went around one time, and that one time was about a 10-minute ride, because you was riding. That go-kart was about the size of a football field, and it was that big to where it took you about 10 minutes, maybe 15, depending on how fast you was going, to get around that go-kart. And you only went around once, because that go-kart track was long and huge. They even had a picture of it inside of the arcade that was next door, where they say across the street, this is the largest go-kart track. And it was probably the largest go-kart track in America till they closed it. And if you know, because that was the spot to go to. And then when they closed it, they say the line, and I told you this in a previous episode, the line was about 2 hours to get on the go-karts for the last day of it. And I was like, if I was there, I would have known. But I went there when I was in college. It was one of the spots I used to hang out with my classmates in college. But let me know, comment at the bottom of this page, are you devastated for these closures and these changes? Are you happy for them? Are you sad about them? Do you like the changes? Do you not like the changes? And if you're not from South Florida, let me know what's in your area that you used to go to that was a spot that was something you used to go to that was there, and they changed it and you didn't like it, to where it was something that changed and you hated it and now you have to live with it. Let me know. Comment at the bottom of this page. Also email me, roundtable 305 at yahoo.com, because right now it's like South Florida is changing for the worse, and the visitors, all they're gonna do is be able to do is go to the beach. What their kids are gonna go hang out at. What their kids are gonna go have fun at. You need something for the tourists to have fun at, not just the beach, not just the bars, not just the restaurants. Where the family fun centers, where the amusement parks, where the roller coasters, where's something that the kids can enjoy while they're here, not just enjoying the beach. We don't want to get bitten by a shark. We don't want to get stung by a stingray or something. We want to get flipped upside down on a go-kart, on a roller coaster, ride the go-karts and stuff. But let me know how y'all feel about this. As always, thank you for watching this episode and my other episodes, and click and subscribe to this channel. As always, stay safe, stay blessed, stay hydrated, and of course I will see you in the next episode. Take care.